Hey guys, what's up? I'm CJ and welcome back to my galaxy. Today we are talking about your theories for Sunrise on the Reaping. I have a bunch of screenshots from my comment sections on different theories people have commented, typed out, written essays about, and I thought I would discuss them because, you know, you guys really love my debunking videos. It's like the most popular series on my channel for the Hunger Games. So, you know, may as well ask you guys because you guys can be like really smart. Now, also, if I want to preface this by saying, if I say your theory might not come true, it doesn't necessarily mean it definitely won't. I just personally think it won't. You know, this is my personal opinion. You can argue with me in the comments as long as you guys are respectful. I will hear you guys out. I would love to know what your opinions are further, you know, rather than just my own opinion. I don't want to just like talk to myself here. You know, this is like a back and forth thing with you guys. And also, if you aren't in this specific video, I also will be doing videos like for theories on Sunrise on the Reaping in the future, probably after the blurb and the new cover comes out. I think that'd probably be a lot better. All right, so I think I have about 13 theories here. I think maybe just less than that. So I have like the screenshots reading off of my laptop, and the screenshot will appear somewhere around here so you guys know who I'm talking about and you can like read along. I don't know, do whatever. I don't know. Anyway, okay. Also, by the way, if I look really tired, it's because I'm doing a class at the moment that's every day, Monday through Friday for 4 hours, and I have to leave the house at 8 a.m. and I am not a morning person. So let's get into the theories. All right, from Jeremy McNamara. I was also thinking a Maisley, Haymitch, and Snow triple perspective would be possible. The problem with just Haymitch is, like you said, it wasn't mentioned in the announcement. But he also spends most of the games trying to make it to the edge of the arena rather than being in the midst of the action like Katniss was in the first 2 books/movies. Even though the novel won't take place during the 25th Hunger Games, we'll most definitely get some more information on it, which is something I think as well. Plus, if part of the novel is from Snow's perspective, we'll likely get more details on his rise to power and maybe find out what happened to Dr. Gall and the Grand Man, both of whom are likely dead by this point, as well as a potentially diminishing relationship with Tigris. We'll probably also get cameos of Katniss's parents and maybe even find out their names. The final thing I wanted to mention is that even though we know what happens during the 50th Hunger Games from the chapter on Catching Fire, Collins said a major theme in the book will be propaganda and misinformation. It could be that the games Katniss and Peter saw were not the whole/true story of what went down. This is a comment that I definitely agree with. Maybe not the Maisley, Haymitch, and Snow triple perspective. I know, and I'll probably bring this up for other comments, that a lot of people are saying that the multi-perspective could happen because a lot of people want just a lot of different perspectives, and everyone's like, let's all be happy and just say multiple perspectives, which I think is like really cute that the fandom's doing that. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't think you guys should expect it. I think it'd be really interesting if like a Maisley, Haymitch, Snow perspective would happen. I think it would be insane and really good to add to the propaganda that Susan Collins is saying that is going to be a major theme in the book. I think just Maisley, Haymitch would really add to how different the story could be, as per, you know, Katniss and Peter only watched footage and edited footage for that matter for Haymitch's games, and we know that once a victor is announced and is seen, that they show rather highlight reel rather than the games as the Capitol originally saw it even. So we know that it's heavily edited, and seeing it from Maisley's perspective before she dies, Haymitch's perspective, and even Snow's perspective, and as he gets angry that Haymitch is taking his power away and embarrassing him. So that one I do agree with. From the original Alan. Just rebounding on your mentor idea, what if Haymitch's mentor was not Seneca Crane but Plutarch Heavensby? It would explain how a game maker from one of the wealthiest families in the capital got into the rebellion. Maybe he got really close with Haymitch and turned his back on Snow after what he does to his family. And I believe Snow was already president since he's the one to read the card of the Quarter Quell and the recap Katniss and Peter watch. I don't remember him reading the card. But I believe it probably is in there because like I have like a little bit of recollection, but until the comment said it, I was like, I don't remember that. So probably I'll agree with you on that one. I haven't reread that part of the story in a little bit, but yeah, I definitely agree with this. Is the where I got my idea. If you see that, if this is going to be from Plutarch's perspective on my channel, there's the video on my channel very recently before this video. This comment, I believe, is actually where I got that idea from. So the original Alan, thank you for pointing that out. I think that's actually a very genius idea or perspective. I think this is probably, your comment is probably the one that I think is most likely going to happen. And just simply because Plutarch has a lot of story we don't know, and he is the guy for propaganda. He's the character that represents propaganda in Mockingjay. He makes the propos, as they call them, and yeah, I just definitely think that it's going to be him. So yeah, a lot of people have been mentioning Plutarch as well. So if you guys have also mentioned Plutarch in my comments section, I probably was inspired by you as well. I just think this was the first comment that I saw. But yeah, all credit to you guys. Very good. Thanks for the idea, I guess. Alright, anyway, let's go on to the next comment. I don't know, Keto Rising 81. I don't know how to say half of these usernames. So Tigris and Mags both play a major role in this book. Tigris will be Haymitch's stylist, and the things she does to encourage Haymitch is the final nail in her relationship with Snow. I feel that it's not an accident that Haymitch speaks so kindly of Mags and Catching Fire. She made a profound impact on him, perhaps as a surrogate mentor, because 12 doesn't technically have an available winner. There will be many Easter eggs as it pertains to Katniss's mum and dad. Also believe in this one. This one I think is very interesting because I hadn't really thought of the fact that Tigris could have started as a stylist in District 12 and then like worked her way up, or eventually said that she wants to volunteer for 12, which is another comment that I want to get to later that mentions Tigris possibly being a stylist for 12 and the reason why. Mags, I wouldn't be surprised if she's kind of like a mother to all the victors, because she is the very first of the new generation of victors, because she's the one that followed up the 10th Hunger Games with all the new ideas from Snow. So she probably mentored everyone, all the victors, looked after them. Obviously we know she does that for Finnick, and then Haymitch thinks so kindly of her, and I'm sure many of the other victors do as well. And I think your whole idea of being a surrogate mentor definitely would apply here specifically. I just love that idea as well. So I think there are a couple that I do disagree with. I just will point that out. I have got some that I'm like, no, I don't think that's true. Okay. D something. I don't know. I'm sorry about your usernames. You can see it on screen somewhere. Okay. One that I would love is if it was written from the perspective of every single tribute, switching each chapter. It could be a really interesting way to see how each tribute reacts to the games. You could see their backgrounds, their families, their skills, their reactions, their decisions, and eventually their deaths. We could watch the reaping from the perspective of a career, the training from the perspective of a kid who knew the ocean instead of the forest, the judging from the perspective of a kid with no good skills, the bloodbath from the perspective of a kid who chose to run to the cornucopia, etc. Since we already know Haymitch's stories, it'd be interesting to see his story play out just in the background of the other players' stories. Then the last chapter would be Haymitch's perspective, ending with the death of his entire family and the start of his new life. It would definitely be nothing like the previous books, but it would also be a great way to emphasize and continue all the same themes and really show how no one is exempt from the horrible system. So I see the value in this idea that from every single tribute, it does play into that theme of propaganda. How is everyone tricked by the capital into playing the games and really playing the games as like a social game rather than a brutal death game as well, in the way that like Haymitch and Peter play the games as a social game and to gain the capital's respect in a way for entertainment. I think from a perspective of a reader, I think it would be so incredibly interesting to actually see that every single perspective and how every single district reacts differently. And Sunrise and the Reaping, something that I find so interesting is that Katniss in the original book, in the very first book, is saying that it actually starts with District 1, the reaping, and goes all the way to District 12. So in theory, capital citizens could watch every single reaping from like whatever time. I think they start like midday or something, because capital citizens typically rise late, I think Katniss tells us. I don't know how she knows that information, but apparently that's true. I remember reading it in the book. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I definitely think that the capital, a sunrise implies almost that someone is watching the reapings from the beginning to the end. At least that's what I think. So seeing something like that from the perspective of every single tribute, although I don't think it's going to happen, because like you said in the comments that it's not typical like the other books, but I do think that it's almost a possibility to have something almost along the lines of what your idea is. I wouldn't be surprised if we got something very similar. I don't necessarily think that the exact idea would happen, but it'd be interesting to read, and it'd work really well in the world, I believe. And I just think something along the lines of that would have to happen, surely, in the books. This comment I just find really funny. Greasy Sae origin story in all caps, because this commenter really loves them. I think that's so true. Greasy Sae, I think, would be a very important character to hear a lot about. She is quite an old woman. She in fact has grandchildren by the time of Mockingjay, that she brings her grandchild with her to look after Katniss after getting back to District 12 after the whole war ends. I think that it'd be really, her character survives surprisingly, and she's not actually in the movie, so it'd be interesting, I know, as well, because we're getting Maisley Donner. When it comes to characters like Maisley Donner, they never put Madge in the original movies, so it'd be really difficult to put like a character like Maisley Donner or Greasy Sae into the movies, since they don't show up when they're supposed to in the original movies. So I think it would be difficult, and I'm sure Suzanne Collins would not cater to just because of the movies, but I do think she would maybe keep that in mind, knowing that it's going to be made into a movie. I just don't see Greasy Sae happening because she's not in the movies originally, but at the same time, it would be really good to have a perspective because she survived the war, so we'd be able to understand her progression as a character into Mockingjay. From Luna Rogers, this comment is really long, so just bear with me, strap in, okay? I assume the book is going to focus heavily on family as an overarching theme, meaning the later book's protagonist's family is Haymitch's family and friends, but also Snow's family, as he had mentioned that he did not choose to marry for love. It's my understanding, anyhow, that all Hunger Games books focus on love in a very broad understanding of the world. In my mind, the boy-girl pairings in Ballad were intentional as an experiment by Dr. Gall. 10 Hunger Games in, she wanted to see if there could ever be alliances between district and capital, and who better to choose than young people with raging hormones, which I find funny. There was bound to be infatuation, at least, and worked twice, I believe, for a snowy boy, and also his classmate who helped Jessup, although it might have been subtle. Snow cheated for love, switched districts for love, realized he loved life in the capital and power more, and eventually killed the love or empathy in himself to return to Dr. Gall, who in him found the perfect specimen for future experiments. She realized early on that the people becoming seemingly tired of the Hunger Games meant that the budding of empathy and eventually would have resulted in a revolt. The original trilogy showed a world where there was no time for love. People are either starving the districts, working themselves to an early grave, or party so much in the capital that they lose what little humanity they have. Their love is a construct made by the game makers when it's time for the annual idol competition. And while the other districts are hungry for literal food, I think the capital is hungry for love. You can be touched after all. They see Peter and Katniss fall in love and go absolutely ham for that, to the point of calling to end the games on air in book 2. Long story even longer, I think the book will show the differences in Snow's, or maybe even the capital people's family, and the families Haymitch, and the gang in the districts. And their allyship later on within the games is also a type of found family thing, I imagine. I think we'll spend a longer time before the games in 12 getting to know everybody. Most likely meeting parents and grandparents of the OG trilogy gang and really connecting with them and their relationship. We'll see how they love one another, and then see how there is none of that in Snow's chosen life. And when Snow realizes his seemingly cruel idea with the force field was used to make this boy win and return to his family. And maybe Haymitch has also had fireplace conversations about who is waiting for him. Snow knows he has to make Haymitch an example and kill his family, because if you do anything to upset Big Brother, which is such a funny reference. I love that. I hate 1984, but love the reference. Everyone you love dies. And Haymitch will also not love anybody for a long time, because he will mentor and all these kids who die within minutes throughout the years. I love this comment so much. They basically sum it all up. I don't really want to add much to it other than I do believe that the theme of love is going to be in the book. There's technically a love triangle in the original trilogy. It's a bit made up for marketing in the movies, but there is that theme of love and fighting for love and fighting for the people you love to have a better life in the Hunger Games. And then when you go to the prequel books, there is the rejection of love. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of found family elements, because Haymitch eventually has this found family with Peter and Katniss, because they are the first to survive, the first he truly cares for. Like the commenter said, I think it's definitely, no, I think it's almost inevitable that the theme of love is going to be very prominent in this novel, because it's going to be the start of a rebellion, and the rebellion is going to be because of loved ones. And Haymitch is going to join the rebellion, very likely, because he lost those loved ones that he truly cared for. So I think it's going to be less about romantic love. I would be a little bit more inclined to think it's going to be familial love. I know Haymitch has a girlfriend that we know of, but no, I think it's going to be leaning towards familial love in this novel. But no, the theme of love, just as an overarching theme, as the commenter said, definitely is going to be in there. And my cat just hit my ring light. Stop touching my ring light, Willow. Okay. That's her name, Willow. She's a little grey cat. Okay, so on to the next commenter. Magnus the Mythic. So my thoughts are that the book will be another Snow novel showing his time as head game maker. Definitely a lot shorter of a comment than the last one, but I think that it's quite a good point to point out that I originally thought that if we got another book, it was going to be from a Snow perspective. It's going to be a sequel to the prequel. I thought it was going to be because of about the 25th Hunger Games, and it's clearly not. It's about the 50th Hunger Games. So this one I think is a possibility, but I think it's less of a possibility because Snow is going to be so old, and I do think we're going to get a protagonist that is a teenager, because it's still a YA novel. I know so many people of different ages love this novel and this franchise, this novel series, but at the same time it still has a target audience, people to be drawing in, and those are young adults, those are teenagers, and that's why the span of the Hunger Games people is 12 to 18. You know what I mean. 12 to 18 is when you can be reached for the Hunger Games, because it has a target audience. And I don't think having a character that is older than that would be very efficient for that target audience, as much as we, being older, would understand that it takes away from the original genre of YA novel. So I think it'd be great, and I think it's a possibility, but I don't think it's not most likely. If you're going on to the next comment, okay. Next comment, Jackson Levy. Maybe it could be about a career's perspective and how their entire lives are shaped by capital propaganda. I've seen this one so many times recently, and once again, this would be very interesting to hear from, because we know that from Cato's monologue, specifically in the original Hunger Games novel, Cato realizes at the very end that it was too late, it was all for nothing. Also, something said by Coral at the end of, oh my god, my cat. This is Willow, who just knocked my ring light. Okay. I lost my thoughts because of Willow jumping on me. Coral also says it at the end of the prequel. She also unfortunately died during the 10th Hunger Games against Lucy Gray. And Cato and Coral both realize at the end, through Cato through a monologue, Coral at the very end realizing that they killed a bunch of people for nothing. Cato wanted to make his district proud, to bring pride to his district, and he couldn't do that because it was all a lie. It was all propaganda. And I think hearing from a career tribute would be that propaganda theme, but at the same time, I don't think we're going to get the perspective of someone who's going to end up dead at the end of the novel. I just don't see that happening. So the next 3 comments are from Kate Crossing. One theory that I heard is that the book will be from Haymitch's perspective, and it will start from his reaping and end with the reaping from the 74th Hunger Games. Oh my god, there's 2 in this one comment. Another theory I heard is that it will be from Madge's mum's perspective and that he will be in love with Haymitch. I've also heard people say that they think Lucy Gray will be a secret mentor for Haymitch, but that makes no sense. No, I agree. Lucy Gray is not coming back. I've seen a lot of people saying that they hope Lucy Gray comes back, and I know that's a great sentiment. I love this spirit, but no, I think that's very unlikely. You might hear like whispers of Lucy Gray, but I don't think we'll see her at all. Her name will not be mentioned. So perspective of Haymitch's reaping and the 74th Hunger Games. I wouldn't be surprised if there's flashbacks from Haymitch and like flash forwards to after the war. Okay, the other theory in this comment was Madge's mum's perspective. Madge's mum, yes, the twin of Maisley Donna. Also possibility. I think that one is quite a good possibility, and it would explain a lot from, we know that from the books that she gets a lot of migraines, and we don't think she ever fully, it's implied, she's never fully recovered from her twin's death either. And there's maybe a little bit of guilt there as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's definitely a possibility. One theory that I heard that I like is that Tigris requested to be the stylist for 12 as a small act of rebellion to remind Snow of Lucy Gray. This is the one I was talking about earlier, the fact that Tigris could be working in District 12 simply as volunteering. And yeah, if we see Tigris, no, we're almost definitely going to see Tigris somewhere in this book. And if we see her, I would not be surprised if it's as District 12 stylist. I know there are also rumors that she was a stylist for District 4 for Finnick because of the connection there between their like backstories. But there's like a 24-year time period between there, and she definitely would have changed around a lot, I think. So it gives her 24 years to change from district to district, depending on how she wants to rebel against Snow. So I do think that's also a possibility. The next one, I think we're going to see Tigris and Snow's relationship really fall apart because of the other Hunger Games. Snow can just say that they were going to happen anyway. So it's better for the tributes to live in luxury for the week leading up to the games. And if more people watch, then their deaths won't be for nothing. And for the first quarter quill, where people voted for the tributes, he can just say that they were the worst people from each district and deserved to go into the games. But for the second quarter quill, when there are twice as many tributes, I think it's harder for Snow to justify these games to Tigris. I feel like Snow and Tigris's relationship would have been like an off again, on again kind of, like they were getting into an argument, they're besties the next day because Snow has manipulated Tigris in some way, and then Tigris is like, wait, no, definitely not, and then we can't do that, and then Snow's like, no, but they deserved it in the 25th Hunger Games. They've surely voted in the worst of the worst because they're all savages and whatever he thinks about district people, and Tigris is like, oh, you're so right, and then she realizes, no, that's not it's not right. And yeah, I agree with the comment. Alexandra, I don't know how to say the rest of the username. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not being able to pronounce your usernames. I feel like everyone is forgetting about Effie. We see her struggle with Peter and Katniss going back into the arena and causing her to finally break through a lot of the Capitol brainwashing. It could be so interesting to see the games from her perspective and see how a Capitol citizen is influenced by propaganda and the way we know Effie is. She also has a relationship with Haymitch, which could explain the focus on the second quarter course specifically. I will point out with Effie, Haymitch has a girlfriend. I just want to point that out. I know that eventually Haymitch and Effie have some kind of relationship. In the books, they don't so much have that. I believe that eventually that relationship did progress. It just happened at a different time than it did in the movies Hunger Games universe. But in the movies, they definitely do have a relationship. But that would not have, it would have progressed slowly and would not have happened before Haymitch's girlfriend died. So I don't think we're going to see like a romantic relationship with Haymitch and Effie. It's going to, if she's in this book and it's her perspective, it's going to be platonic almost her in the background being like, oh, who is this guy, who's this Victor, and trying to slowly get to know him from a distance. I would say Effie is also one of the perspectives I'm like rooting for. I'm like, I really hope we see Effie's. I'm debating between Plutarch and Effie. I think they're like the strongest possibilities we have personally, and if it's either one of them, I'm gonna be like, yes, perfect, I can't wait to read this. Obviously, I'm gonna be really excited for any perspective, but if it's Effie or Plutarch, I'm gonna be extra especially excited. I chose way too many comments for this for this video. I've been filming forever. Okay, from Josh Biggs. I trust that Suzanne Collins is only writing a new Hunger Games book because she has a good story to tell and it isn't just writing a novel for fan service and money. But like a lot of people, I really struggle to see how a novel about Haymitch's games could add to the story, given how much we already know about it, though I hope to be pleasantly surprised. I'm almost sure I am wrong about this, but my theory is that the story will be told from the perspective of a tribute from the 50th Hunger Games from any of the other districts besides 12, who we have never met or heard before. Which district isn't important just as long as it's not 12. I think this part is just, people are tired of hearing about District 12 because we've been in that world for so long. The reader is made to absolutely love this tribute and root for them, and the tribute is killed by Haymitch, and Haymitch is portrayed as the villain of the story. This could work because we as the reader love Haymitch as the man who befriended Peter and Katniss. So we see that flipped on its head, and to see Haymitch portrayed as the villain of the story could be interesting. Would also play into the themes briefly touched on in the previous Hunger Games books of how the capital pits districts and tributes against one another, so they can view each other as enemies, losing sight of the fact that the real enemy is the capital. I also think it'd be cool for the story to be told from the point of view of a character we have never met before, as it'll help make it feel fresh and interesting rather than it just being fan service. I totally agree about the fan service part, because it is, when I first saw it, I'm like, really do we need this story? Probably not. But the thing is, obviously we trust Suzanne Collins. She would not, the quote that we always attribute to her when she said it through Lucy Gray is that she doesn't sing unless she has something to say, and we will believe Suzanne Collins goes by the same idea, which I personally agree with. I think the whole idea of people wanting from another, like a perspective from another tribute, does come from the fact that we hear so much about District 12, but I do think at this stage Suzanne Collins wants to tell District 12's story, and that's the reason she's writing all these books from the District 12 story, is that District 12 is her district. You know, I imagine she probably sees herself or like is living vicariously through them. That doesn't sound right. You know, when people put pieces of themselves in their characters as authors, that's what she's doing, and she loves District 12 so much. It's her brainchild. That's probably why she's writing from this perspective of District 12. I don't think it's going to be from another district tribute's perspective, just because they die at the end of the book. Although when you say that from the villain, like seeing Haymitch as a villain, I think a part of the propaganda that we're going to see is Haymitch essentially not being seen as we see him in the original trilogy, because this different character perceives him in a different way. We're definitely going to see Haymitch in perhaps a way that we don't agree with, and I think we have to be very prepared for that. And we have to, you know, we really have to be prepared for Haymitch being seen in a completely different way that we definitely don't agree with. I'm just going to put out there, not to get angry at Suzanne Collins. She's doing this for a reason, and we need to understand that we have to form our opinions of Haymitch, kind of meet in the middle, from whoever is this perspective from Haymitch and however Katniss sees Haymitch. We need to assume that there's probably like a middle area that Haymitch is actually like, because we know that Katniss has that teenage angst, doesn't like Haymitch because they're so alike sort of perspective of him. So it's probably not accurate. Also, Lucy Gray we're told to kind of hate her in a way because it's through Snow's perspective, but we know that Lucy Gray isn't to be hated, and she was definitely not in the wrong in the prequel, because of course we know that Snow's the villain. So we have to come into the new book with kind of that idea that whoever this perspective is going to be from is very likely not entirely correct and is a very biased narrator, like both Katniss and Snow. All right, final theory, story time with Yaz. It's my headcanon currently that Katniss's dad and Haymitch are besties, and that's Katniss's parents' trauma bond. Sorry, I'm not laughing over trauma bond. Over their besties being in the games, which is why Katniss's mom can't function after he dies. I think also they all go over to the mayor's house to watch behind the scenes stuff, and that's how Maisley, his sister, gets with the next mayor, who was being groomed for the role by his dad. I also think it's from Katniss's dad's perspective, who would tie in all the Lucy Gray Covey storylines, and I think we'll get right up until his death. I wonder if Haymitch tells him more in secret after the games, and that's maybe what gets him killed. I don't know. I think it answers so many questions. Yes, I totally agree with that. I think even if we don't get the perspective of any of the parents of the characters we saw in the original trilogy, I think we're going to see some sort of background of them, and I wouldn't be surprised if this comment is true. I definitely see that happening, and because I'm here wondering, like, how did she end up with the mayor? How did she, how does the mayor voted in through like a very authoritarian state? And Haymitch, and because I mentioned thinking that Haymitch and Katniss's dad are likely like friends because they were both from the seam, so I thought it was very likely that they at least knew each other. And obviously we know Katniss's mother and Maisley Donna and the twin Madge's mother were all like really close, and I wouldn't be surprised if they trauma bonded definitely over that. So I definitely agree with this comment, and I wanted to end on like a yes, I would love to see that sort of note, that I do think that it would be very smart to see that, and just I'm very excited to see if we get a bit of a backstory in the parents. I think it would add so much depth to Peter and Katniss's story, and the seam and the merchant and the class divide, and I just think it'd be very interesting to see and how Haymitch's life was pre-Hunger Games, to see if he's like besties with anyone. So I definitely think he was friends with a lot of these people from District 12 and he 100% knew Katniss's dad, like 100%, even if they weren't besties. They knew each other. All right, so that is all the theories for today. If you guys have any more theories, let me know in the comments. You might be picked for the next video. Or if you have theories when the blurb comes out, like the blurb, the new cover, maybe a little bit of an excerpt from the beginning of the novel comes out, like we had with the prequel for Songbirds and Snakes, I would love to hear it. I post a lot on my community tab as well, so once it comes out and I'm like, hey, what are you guys' theories, getting fast, and maybe I'll let you guys in I'll like put you guys in my videos, so because you guys are like really smart, so I like to like read your comments and reply to them, so definitely give me your comments and your thoughts. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe. We recently reached 1,000 subscribers, which is very, very great. Yay! I'm gonna be posting a video about how I reached 1,000 subscribers, and just have you guys get to know me a little bit better through that as well. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I've been CJ, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!